Ex-cons of Reddit. What was the hardest prison habit to break after being released? I didn't use a fork for a few weeks. Ate everything with a spoon without thinking. It's not the most interesting thing, but I hadn't noticed it posted here. I still do this from being in the military. I hate eating with forks. Give me a spoon or some chopsticks. Edit. Thank you. Taking as long as you want in the shower. For the longest time after I got out, I took less than 5-minute showers. My friend did 2.5 in Florida State Prison. Said the first thing he did when he got home was shower until all the hot water ran out. Edit. Because this seems to be coming up a lot. This was like 15 years ago. Tankless water heaters weren't really a thing back then. I'm not totally sure if they even existed. And if so, they weren't common in lower income households. So, yes, it was very possible to run out of hot water. Wow, sounds like a weekday for me. It's cool, eco bros. I bike to work every day. Doing laps. In prison, every time you get time on the yard, you do laps. Seriously. Almost every single person does it too. When you get out, it's hard to break that habit. Oh yeah? This is accurate. This guy went to prison. Pacing back and forth in your pod to get that little bit of cardio in. Pretty much any time you've got the chance to lol. Do some laps. Maybe see a few people to get something for when you're locked in. Talk some shit. Then get ready for lock-in. Only to repeat it again the very next day. Every day, for the next couple years. I find myself hoarding toilet paper under my bed. Sometimes I do it without thinking and I'll look under there and have 10 rolls of TP. Probably stupid question, but why did you hoard it in prison? In many prisons they're issued supplies on a regular basis. I don't know the schedule because I didn't work in a prison. I was a police officer. So if you get 1 roll of TP per month, you save and hoard the rest. The local jail issued them 1 roll. They had to turn in the paper center to get another roll and were limited to how often they could get another. I'm fucked. Sometimes I'd work the jail. We could hold people up to 72 hours in the city jail before taking them to county. If they were cool, I'd shoot the shit with them. If they were super cool, I'd make them a meal even if they were being transported soon. When we took them to county, they got a bologna sandwich, 2 pieces of white bread, 1 small cut of bologna and a milk that had been out for hours. We had frozen TV dinners that were created for Meals on Wheels. If we had a long process, we could go eat at the jail. It was the exact same food the prisoners received. I would have rioted had ate too. It was nasty. We really need prison reform in this country. The hardest thing has been to talk without using the words fuck, fucking, or asshole in every sentence. Become a trucker or construction worker and you should fit right in. Edit. Or, apparently, a chef, cook, software engineer, programmer, mechanic, sailor, marine, soldier, or nurse. I'm a construction worker. I've cussed while talking to a priest. Many times. Without realizing it. My wife makes sure to yell at me later. Oops. Fuck dude, I have this problem and I've never even been to jail, just from Boston. I spent 72 months in prison for a tragic car accident that I had caused. After I was released, I kept telling my wife exactly what I was doing without her asking. She thought it was funny at first, but after a few weeks of it she was starting to get bothered. I am now putting it in. Edit. LMAO, thanks for the gold. I am going to plan your surprise birthday party. Why did you develop that habit in prison? I'm just curious. Comment in a different part of the thread said you get used to having to tell authority figures what you're doing before you do it at all times. I'm sleeping greater than chips away at cell wall with sharpened spoon. A somewhat friend of mine did a few years and the one habit he couldn't shake was distrusting people. He said that people in prison are never nice. If they're nice, it's because of a hidden motive. Up to this day he still doesn't trust people who act nice, generous, helpful. Towards hi monsieur. I've grown up in a sort of rough environment. It's like that in general there too. Nothing is free. Everything at a price. I had a guy want something from me as a teenager and I didn't do it for hi monsieur. He brought up to me that he told me where a good hardware store was. Didn't take me there, buy me anything, or even tell me that they for sure had what I was looking for. Just told me where a supposed good one was. He thought this was leverage enough to get what he wanted out of me. Nope. Making prison commissary only food. Everyone around me thinks it is gross as hell to throw summer sausages, pickles, cheese, Doritos, Cheetos, and such into my ramen noodles. But good lord, I can't stop. And I have been out for 5 years. My dad was in and out of jail when I was a child. When he was out, he used to make me jailhouse slams, basically whatever you can find to throw into ramen, as you said. I thought they were the best thing ever. And it was so cool cause I ate what my dad ate. Right. Fast forward about 12 years and I'm telling my GF this story and she's just like, quote, your dad fed you prison food. Quote, edit, a word, edit 2. My highest comment is about my traumatizing childhood lol, thanks guys. My dad did the same. Growing up I never thought twice about. It was probably one of my favorite things dad made. Marrying into a family of cops. I mentioned slams in passing and got a few looks from the in-laws. Not me, but guy who worked for me. When things were very busy, I would often get carry-out lunch for everyone and bring it back to the workplace. This one guy would eat a cheeseburger and french fries in 2 minutes. Well, once I asked him why he ate so quickly. He said, well, knobs forgma. I spent 7 years in a federal prison and if you didn't eat your meal in 10 minutes, you didn't get anything. That 10 minutes often included the time it took standing in line to get your food. Okay then. I never said anything to him about it after that. Hey you're a decent human being. You hired an ex-con. Keep up the decency. I'm not that great. I lived in a small coastal community on the Gulf of Mexico. Of course, seafood was the main business with lots of small boats and subsistence fishing, crabbing, oystering. The FBI put together a sting and hired 4 fishermen to offload what was supposed to be bags of cocaine onto their boats from a large boat that could not go in shallow water. It was actually not cocaine. They were to be paid $10,000, which was, to them, almost a year's income. These 4 fishermen were busted and ended up spending 7 years in federal prison. And a prison far, far away from their families. So I had known this young man for years and for me, his time in prison was like PFFT. You screwed up but whatever. He was funny and hardworking and not really bitter about what happened. He worked for me in my small wholesale seafood business and was great. P.S. I would have no qualms about hiring an ex-con. Not afraid of that, as long as they didn't have 13 tattooed on their forehead. My ex would sleep a certain way all the time. To me it seemed like he was sleeping as if he was in a coffin, his arms crossed and wouldn't move. The entire night for a couple months. He eventually broke that habit. Edit, a word. I did that too when I was in. Not because I was afraid of getting raped, but because if someone came at me when I was sleeping, it was the best position to be able to defend yourself. I'm a stomach sleeper normally. I'm sure this was his reason too. When I would go visit him and see other inmates through the glass I would be so afraid for. Hi monsieur, some guys look like beasts and act very wild. Yeah, there are some lunatics who definitely deserve to be there. But there are unwritten rules as well. It's all about reciprocal respect. Some of the coolest guys in there were gigantic dudes from the hood. For the most part, if you respect them, they will respect you. Don't cross them, though. Edit. Coolest. Not cooled. Dude I work with said for the first little bit after getting out he would take a leg out of his pants when he'd shit. Not sure how common that was. Dude's a fighter though, so maybe that had something to do with it. A couple guys I know after being out for 5 to 10 YRS wrap their arms around their plates and shovel food in their mouths at the speed of light. They are also super defensive of their food. When I first got to know them, I jokingly swiped a chip off one of their plates and he flipped his fork up and demanded I give it back. Freaked me out a lil. I could just imagine them going on a date with one of them people who says they don't want anything, but then proceed to grab something off your plate. Joey doesn't share food. I don't smoke, but every time someone offered me a cig I would pocket it. On the inside, that's a bartering chip. Took me about a month or two to break. My friend once told me he got hooked on watching news channels and crappy daytime television. He said he also enjoyed listening to AM radio now, even though he knows specific podcasts exist that are more tailored to Hi Monsieur. He killed himself 3 years ago after getting a 20-year sentence just 1 year after getting out. Edit. A lot of people asking questions, so I'll just go ahead and clarify here. At 18 he served a little over a year in prison for moving marijuana. Got out, violated parole and got caught moving mass amounts of marijuana and other things like breaking into homes, petty theft, which was going to send him back for at least 15 years. After the jig was up, he had a while where he was allowed to stay at home, where he shot himself with a 9mm pistol in the head. He survived the initial shot but later died 2 days after going to the hospital. Was a great friend and knew him since elementary school. Top of our graduating class in high school. Just too much exposure to the wrong people. That's something our society doesn't talk about. Once these guys get out, a lot of them don't make it long before they commit suicide. It's so fucking sad. They survived hell. And I'm not arguing to who deserved it or not, that's not my point. And then finally are released and just can't cope. It's heartbreaking. Edit. A word. I think that guy killed himself because he was going back to prison for 20 years and was probably going to die in there anyway. Edit. Hey tilde you, Juicebox Shakur tilde you, Arief tilde you, Arief, can you give us some clarity? Things are probably getting out of hand here. Edit 3.5, I guess I don't have the attention to detail I had thought that I had. Not op, but my understanding was this. Friend got out of prison 4 years ago. A year later, got a 20 years prison sentence. Killed himself. Being paranoid, always looks over my shoulder and never letting anyone stand behind me. Even people passing on the side of me, I'm always turning my head to see what they're doing. Food, I could be the last one to eat, first one done, and I still stand when I eat around people. Realizing I could just get up and go somewhere. That I could make plans tomorrow from 1,000 different choices. Hard to break the habit of checking everyone who enters your vicinity. It feels like you've got to mark everyone off as a non-threat. Edit. I don't care if you do that and you've never been to prison. As a former prison guard, it's a hard habit for us to break as well. Constantly looking over my shoulder. By far the hardest conditioning to break, which I haven't and doubt I ever will, is the constant pessimism and cautious optimism. Monsieur, you see, when you're waiting to work your way through court, get a deal, and get sentenced, you will have your dates changed 50 times. Hope for certain things only to be disappointed. And anytime you are told something hopeful, it doesn't work out. As a result, I never get excited for something until it actually happens. When my wife told me we were pregnant, I already knew from her symptoms that she was, but still, you never know for sure till you take the test. I was obviously happy, but because I'm always cautiously optimistic and rarely show emotion, I couldn't feel comfortable or excited until I knew that my developing daughter was healthy. Even then, it didn't really hit me till she was born. You can apply this to anything, especially big events. Getting engaged, planning the wedding, buying a house, anything. I still hear from my wife how I wasn't crazy surprised or excited to be having a kid. I actually was the half of the relationship who was dead set on a kid when my wife supposedly could have gone either way. You just can't get your hopes up or look forward to anything until it is here or has happened. I've been home over 7 years now and with my wife for 6.5. She's truly the catalyst that motivated me to truly change my life and to not give any more of my life to the system. But she'll never know how happy she makes me because she misinterprets my cautious optimism, realism, for pessimism or indifference. Now, show this post to your wife. Seriously. I'd be like, you should read this, but I do not want to talk about it. Just think on it. But that's just me. Edit. Holy shit. I guess thousands of people agree. Monsieur. Thank you so much for watching and have a good day.